Right, what's going on? It's me, Shotty4HF, and a little while ago I did a video on the Limiter number 6 by Tokyo Dawn Labs, and it's had quite a few plays. It seems to be quite well received, so I thought it's time I did another plugin video. And in all fairness, I planned on doing another one way before now, but because of other projects and other stuff going on, I've just not been able to do it. And this is going to be quite a short video because the plugin I'm going to be looking at, it is an EQ. But it isn't just any EQ, it's this. The MASBAX EQ from Analog Obsession. And I'm just going to go through a few of its features and then tell you why I like it. And I think most music makers have heard of Analog Obsession by now. But if you haven't, this guy, and I believe that it is just one guy that's doing it, is making some amazing plugins. You can get quite a few plugins for free, but you can also support the plugin maker at patreon.com. Of course, I will leave a link in the description. There are other plugins available as well. You can have access to all the plugins for a paid subscription, that kind of thing. But please go and check him out. Support him if you can, because he really is doing some amazing work. And it's not a sponsor, it's not an affiliate link or anything like that. He is just genuinely making some incredible plugins, so please make sure you check it out. So here it is, the MASBAX EQ. It looks great. This big red thing fills the screen when you open it, and it looks inviting from the start. So let's have a look at it. It's a 3-band EQ, fairly basic stuff. You have a low shelf, a mid band, and a high shelf. And underneath it, you have the frequency selection, the frequency selector switch, if you like. And when you open it, this selector here is in the link mode, and this selector here is in L and R mode, which of course means left and right, which is the left and right channel of the stereo signal. So when it's linked, if you turn up the low shelf on the left-hand side, it will turn up the low shelf on the right channel as well. So again, fairly basic stuff, but this is quite handy because you can turn off link, and then if you did for some reason want to EQ the left channel slightly different to the right, you can do that also. And also select different frequency bands. Once this is off, everything is off. Once it's linked, everything is linked. You also have a bypass switch here for each side, so you can sort of check what you're doing that way. And above that, of course, is MS, which stands for mid-side or mono stereo. I would say mid-side. But once that's off, you can EQ the mid signal, the mono signal, different to the side signal. And this is a really great feature of this plugin because quite often, maybe on the side signal, you have a little bit too much brightness, a little bit too much harshness, something like that. You can EQ some of that out of the side signal, but leave it in the mono signal. And the same with the low, of course, which quite often you might need to do that. Take some of the low frequencies out of the side signal, but leave the mono signal the same. And again, this bypass switch for each side does come in useful because let's say you do some EQing on the mono signal, and you're quite happy with that, and you do some EQing on the side, and you just want to see what you've done on the side. You can switch that on and off, but keeping the EQing on the mono signal the same. So it's just a handy feature to have. It just gives you a few options there. So very straightforward stuff. It is straightforward EQ. I do like the actual frequency selection underneath. Quite often it is the frequency that I want to go to. Especially some of these bands, the 2K, 4K area. Also with the lows as well, you got the 60 hertz area for sort of drums and bringing out the kick drum maybe in conjunction with another EQ perhaps, and you just want to bring up some of that shelf in the 60 hertz area just to sort of boost some of that low end. I do actually use this plugin quite a lot. But why do I like this plugin? Well, the one reason that I like this is because it's so subtle, it's so gentle. It says 6 and -6 on each dial, but I don't think it's quite 6 dB. You'll see what I mean in a minute. And I'm just going to show you with this. If I just put everything back to where it was, and just put it back to how it would be at the start. So I'm just going to do this with some white noise and just show you basically what's coming through. I realize there is a plugin out there, I think, is it Plugin Doctor or something, where you can put an instance before and after the plugin that you want to analyze, and it will show you exactly what it's doing. But I'm just going to use some white noise for this demonstration. It's got a little bit of movement in there, and of course I've muted it so it's not really annoying. So let's just have a look at this. When I turn up, I'm going to select 13K and turn up this high shelf, and you can see down here just how much movement there is, just how much gain increase there is, or attenuation, when I turn the dial. So looking here, when I turn this up, you can see just how gentle that shelf is, and obviously the same when I go down. And if you see what I mean, the line is sort of around about -6 here, and when I turn up the low shelf to +6, it doesn't quite make it to 0, and the same when I go down as well. Even when I put this on some material and listen, it just doesn't sound the same as a 6 dB boost of any other EQ that I might have or might use. So I'm not really sure on that. If anybody knows, let me know in the comments. But yeah, you can see just from this movement just how gentle this lift is when I turn up that low shelf, and also when I turn it down. It's the same both ways. The only one that looks slightly different both ways, if I put the mid band, which is obviously more of a bell EQ curve, and turn that up, you can see very gentle lift in the middle there. And so when I go down, it seems like it's got a little bit more of a bit more Q. Whoops, didn't mean to turn that on. Yeah, a bit more sort of like a high Q, a decibel per octave curve when it goes down than when I turn it up. And I'm sort of seeing the same thing on the MASBAX analyzer as well. But again, it's just so gentle and so subtle, and I think it's very easy. I know I'm certainly guilty of it, grab an EQ and overdoing it. You grab an EQ to turn up the high shelf or something, for example, this is just the input EQ that's built into Cubase, but you do a shelf like that, it's so easy to sort of turn things up too much. But with this, you turn this dial and you turn it sort of clockwise a quarter of the way, and you think you must be doing something a lot because of how much this dial moves. You feel like you're actually turning it up quite a lot, when in actual fact you're not. And that's great because it kind of makes you hold back a little bit on the EQ movements that you do without realizing it. And it is just gentle, and you turn it up and you think, yeah, I can hear that now, and it's kind of where I wanted it to be. But it seems like a big movement on the dial, and this is just great to sort of sort of rein things in a little bit, and making sure that you don't overdo it. Also, what's interesting, I will just mention, is that this high shelf goes up to 27K and 40K, 40 kilohertz. And the thing about that is that when you turn this up, you're actually just getting the tail end of that shelf in that sort of high frequency area. So you're not getting the complete shelf, which is great for especially two-bus processing. If you just want to tame some of that very, very, very top-end frequency, and you set that to 40K, and you can turn that down all the way, and you're still only getting a very, very gentle curve, a small amount of reduction in that area, which is just great for taming those areas without having to have a steep curve, a steep decibel per octave curve up there. So great. And when you sort of bring this down, you can see that the shelf just sort of decreases down to where it says 9K. So yeah, this is absolutely great. It's why I use it quite a lot, especially for the mid-side capability and the other functions that I mentioned, especially, for just taming some of those frequencies, not necessarily EQing them out, but just taming some of those frequencies. That's what I think this is great for, and I would definitely recommend that you check it out. And now, of course, I'm just going to let you hear some of this on some music, so you can just hear what it's doing. I'll just give you an example on there. And I've literally just loaded up an instrumental of one of my tracks. It's called If You Can't Save the World, and I've just put the MASBAX EQ on the insert there, so hopefully you can hear what it's doing. I've chosen this track because it's got quite a lot of instruments in there and quite a bit of mid-range, so yeah, hopefully you'll be able to hear what the plugin's doing in that area. So I'm just going to play a little bit of this, and in the mid-band, we're on 800 at the moment, so you should hear some of that mid-frequency come through. You know, that's right the way to the top. So of course that's a bit extreme for whatever it is you might be doing. Obviously it does as expected, but for such a big movement on the EQ, it's very gentle, and in the top area as well. Like I say, it's very gentle, but that's great because most of the time I would probably put this on, I would turn this up by 2 or 3 just to gently add that sparkle at the top and on the side image as well. And you know, the low end is the same, even if I put this up to sort of 85. Of course, I'm doing quite big movements, so you can hear what the difference is. You know, I probably wouldn't use it like that if I had this loaded up. I generally don't tend to go past sort of 3 or 4 on any of the bands for whatever it is that I'm doing. And then obviously we can select mid-side, turn off the link, and turn up maybe some of these mid frequencies on the side image only. Also the high frequencies there. And actually doing this with the high frequencies can sometimes just give it a bit more sort of stereo width, a bit more stereo image, that kind of thing. So definitely go and check this out. Check Analog Obsessions out as well. There are some great plugins up there that are definitely worth trying out. And of course, if you like this video or you found it useful, please give it a like and subscribe, because I will be doing more, and hopefully I won't leave it so long until the next one. And whenever that might be, we will meet again. Until next time, take it easy, keep creating, and also don't forget you can check out my music in all the usual places and on all the main streaming platforms. Just search Shotty 4HF. And that's it. Nice one.